changing out the draft inducer in my furnace. Just taking a look. I kind of cleaned it out inside of here. This is the old draft inducer. It's very simple. As you can see, that's where it pulls in air. That's the exhaust port. It's got a motor. Motor's corroded and it's drawing too many amps, and the bearing is making a whining sound. Tells me the bearing's shot. It's got three wire lead for power. It literally just lines up to that. Sits in there just like this. There you go. You got to clamp it on there. Connect the wires to the wiring harness. Pretty straightforward. So decided to change it out myself. HVAC guy was here, told me it was bad, drawing too many amps. Got some corrosion over here on my heat exchanger too. That's another concern, but anyway, this is a quick swap. The thing I noticed, and the most time consuming thing to notice, is that there was a gasket there. The new one I ordered off of Amazon came with new screws and a gasket. That gasket I had to scrape off with a putty knife, and looks like I need to clean it a little bit before I put the new gasket on. I believe it's an adhesive backing on the gasket, so I'll get that done and we'll see how that looks. So just going to take a rag. I don't want to spray anything inside of that intake, so just going to spray some crud cutter onto my rag. Crud cutter's a degreaser. Non-toxic, spray toxic crud into my HVAC. I don't want to use anything that's going to break down any plastic or paint that's here. This is a pretty hard plastic. So my putty knife, I would have used a plastic one. I couldn't find it, so I was very careful using my steel putty knife. I use for paint, very flexible. Like the capture with it, I didn't use it for butter. So this good. That should be in good shape. Nice and clean. A little discoloration, but nothing I'm worried about. Looks like there was some liquid dripping there. Inside of here had all kinds of leaf debris from the intake. Right there, I don't have a critter guard on it. So there was some acorn stuff and some, there was a carpenter bee in here too. Okay, once that's dry, we're going to put that gasket on, and then once the gasket is on, we're in business. Put the new draft inducer on. New gasket has an adhesive bag. Just did my best to center that. Pretty happy with that. Now we can put the new draft inducer on. New model. Looks very similar. I did notice when I was doing my research that they updated from the original manufactured model, and this is a new model number by one number. The only difference I noted is there's a one port that's plugged up on the old draft inducer that doesn't exist on this one, which just tells me that whatever model they were making that old one for no longer is being manufactured, I would guess, so that they quit making that one too. Right now I'm just mating this exhaust port together. It is snug, which is good. Okay, and then I just have to make that draft inducer to the gasket. So it pretty much sits there pretty well. You can see that's the exhaust port I was lining up. Once the screw holes line up, you know that it will be seated properly. That was foam on one side of the gasket, so it's got some wiggle room. So this is my guess is some kind of vacuum line or sensor. Probably a sensor. I'm going to run it to this side of the wiring harness, just to make sure I don't put any tension on it for no reason. That'll do. So I couldn't find my stubby, so I just used the flex shaft on my impact. That'll do it. This shaft is flexible, so it allows you to get to tight spaces. Okay. Just going to double check that screw with my hand, make sure it's gonna have good contact. That's as tight as I can get it. Okay, now connect back to the wiring harness. We've got these lovely connectors. White. understand why people use GoPros for this. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Tuck these over here out of the way. Okay. And now to tighten this down. We'll start with the collar. It's the easiest one to forget. You know what? I'll just snug it down. Make sure it's positioned well before I tighten everything else down. Okay, that's pretty close, not perfect, that's okay. Get the rest of these on. So the easiest ones to seat correctly are going to be these shorties here. I can see this screw hole most clearly. So that's the one I'm going to start with. They say never drive screws or start them with power tools. That's true when you're starting out and you don't know how to do it yet, but once you've been doing it for a while, it's fine to start them because you can feel when they're going in correctly. Okay, there's another one. Also, these are screws made to thread into plastic. Now don't just slam them in. It's okay to finesse it, but you can feel if it's threading right. That being said, I did start out doing things by hand, and I still like to check everything by hand. Quarter inch, okay. So when you're doing the final tighten on these, because you got a gasket, it's compressible, you get a much better feel for how you're doing this if you finish snugging them by hand. But you can save yourself some energy by not doing the bulk of the work by hand, because as you get older, your hands will get tired easier. I've learned. Not that old, but still learn. Alright, now we're going to find out if I made it work. It's turned on, everything's hooked up. All the screws are in. It's running. Draft Inducer's functioning. Sounds a lot better than the last one. Doesn't have the high-pitched whine that it did. There's no corrosion. Let's make sure everything turns on like it should. It's glowing, and the gas is on, and we have ignition. That's how it should work. Beautiful. Okay, so that's how you replace a draft inducer. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.